Welcome back. And now for the news in detail, we start with Afghanistan, where the Afghan government and the Taliban have agreed to a prisoner swap in a televised address. President Ashraf Ghani confirmed that Anas Haqqani, Haji Mali Khan and Hafiz Rashid have been released. He said in return, the Taliban will let go of an American professor and an Australian academic abducted in Kabul in 2016. Some media reports say the released Taliban commanders will be sent to Doha, where they will remain under US observation. Meanwhile, China has confirmed it is in contact with all the Afghan parties ahead of a planned intra-Afghan dialogue in Beijing. Turkey has accused the US of not fulfilling its agreement of removing all the Kurdish forces from Syria's northeast. In a media briefing, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said it is impossible to say that the terrorists have withdrawn from the Syria-Turkey border. Erdogan is scheduled to meet US President Donald Trump in Washington tomorrow. The Turkish president said he will discuss the agreement reached with President Trump last month. Erdogan has repeatedly said if the deal is not respected, Ankara will restart the operation to create its proposed safe zone. The US has threatened to impose sanctions on Turkey if it continues its operation in Syria. Four people have been killed and several others wounded in Israeli airstrikes targeting the Palestinian Al-Quds Brigade in Gaza and Syria. Palestinian officials said the air raid destroyed a residential building in the Gaza Strip. In a statement, the Israeli military said Netanyahu authorized the operation against Baha Abu al-Atta in his home in Gaza. Netanyahu has accused al-Atta of being behind the recent rocket, drone and sniper attacks against Israel. Syrian state media said home of a leader of Al-Quds Brigade, Akram al-Ajuri in Damascus, was targeted. It said the Israeli attack in Damascus was carried out using several missiles, one of which was shot down in the nearby suburb of Daria. Hamas says Israel will bear full responsibility for all the consequences of this escalation and pledged that al-Atta's death will not go unpunished. The EU's top court has ruled that food products from illegal Israeli settlements in occupied Palestinian territories must be clearly labeled. The European Court of Justice said this would help consumers to make choices based on ethical considerations. The court said Tel Aviv labels products from illegally occupied Palestinian territories as made in State of Israel. The ECJ said the occupied territories indicate a state policy of population transfer in violation of international humanitarian law. It said that EU's regulations on labeling the origin of goods allow consumers to make informed choices. Iran has rejected European JCPOA signatories' claim of fulfilling their commitments to the 2015 nuclear deal. Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said EU states failed to hold a single commitment over the past 18 months. In a tweet, Zarif said when Iran initiated the dispute resolution mechanism, European signatories chose to ignore it. Yesterday, in a joint statement, France, Germany, the UK and the EU said they were abiding by the JCPOA while Iran was violating it. They expressed concerns over Iran's decision to restart nuclear activities in one of its key sites. India has kept occupied Kashmir under lockdown for 100 days. On 5th of August, the Indian government revoked Article 370, revoking the valley's special status as a disputed territory.
International rights organizations say humanitarian crisis in the valley is worsening with every passing day. They have reported growing shortages of food, health facilities, and increasing mental health problems. New Delhi has detained thousands of Kashmiri politicians and activists, gapping every voice of dissent in the occupied valley. Indian fact-finding mission confirmed the arrest of 13,000 youths and minors as young as 9 years of age. International observers say occupied Kashmir suffered over $1 billion loss in business during these 100 days of chokehold. The EU, US, Congress and the UN have condemned India's actions in the occupied territory. Rights bodies, including Amnesty International, have repeatedly asked India to lift curfew and let Kashmiris be heard.
Indian troops have murdered one more youth in occupied Kashmir's Gandarbal district, raising the death toll from violence in the past 2 days to 3. Locals say the youth was martyred by occupation troops during a cordon and search operation in the district's Gand area. The occupying forces martyred 2 youths in occupied Kashmir in the Bandipora district yesterday. Indian troops martyred 12 civilians across the valley in October during such operations. In a major setback, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's ruling BJP has failed to form the government in the western state of Maharashtra. This comes after the BJP and its oldest Hindutva ally, the Shiv Sena, parted ways yesterday after the breakdown of power-sharing talks. This is the first major political blow for the BJP since it was re-elected in May. Shiv Sena withdrew from coalition talks after accusing the BJP of breaking its promise of a 50-50 power-sharing formula in Maharashtra. India's richest state, Arvind Sawant, Shiv Sena's only union minister, also resigned yesterday. Shiv Sena is now scrambling to cobble together a coalition with the Indian National Congress and the Nationalist Congress Party. In Hong Kong, clashes between riot police and protesters have turned violent in the city's Mong Kok district. The latest clashes erupted after police shot a protester yesterday. Police have used water cannon and tear gas to disperse throngs of masked demonstrators, only to find them amassing again. Anti-government protesters threw petrol bombs at police, marking a dramatic escalation in more than 5 months of unrest. Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, said about 60 people were injured in Monday's clashes. She said the rioters were destroying public order and won't achieve anything using violent means. China has rejected the US and Britain's criticism of the crackdown against anti-government protesters in Hong Kong. Speaking in Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesman Gang Shuang urged the two countries to respect China's sovereignty. He said Beijing would not allow any foreign interference in its internal matters. On Monday, police shot and injured a protester in the eastern district of Sai Wan Ho. A pro-government supporter was also set alight after a heated argument with the protesters. Pyongyang has accused Washington and Seoul of hindering peace in Korean Peninsula. North Korea's ambassador to the UN, Kim Song, said Pyongyang's goodwill gestures have not been reciprocated. Speaking at the UN General Assembly, Song noted North Korea has not carried out nuclear tests for months. He accused the US of pursuing a hostile policy towards North Korea despite its nuclear restraint. The North Korean envoy also accused South Korea of double-dealing by modernizing its military during diplomatic talks. The leaders of Russia, India, China and South Africa will arrive in Brazil later today to attend the 11th annual BRICS summit, which starts tomorrow. The theme of this year's summit is economic growth for an innovative future. In the summit's closing session, the leaders of the world's 5 largest emerging economies will focus on challenges to national sovereignty. At the following plenary session, BRICS leaders will discuss opportunities for mutual economic cooperation. Bolivia's toppled president Evo Morales has fled to Mexico to seek political asylum after stepping down at the military's suggestion. Mexico's foreign ministry confirmed the embattled president will be granted asylum on his arrival. More in this report.
Caving into mounting pressure from the military, Bolivia's President Evo Morales resigned yesterday. He tried to hold on to power after winning a controversial election last month. But public anger isolated him and he ran out of allies. For now, Bolivia's military is seeking to restore public order and has mounted armed street patrols in La Paz and other cities. Meanwhile, police have arrested over 30 election commission officials suspected of being complicit in the rigging of last month's elections.
The only thing I want is to provide solution to this horrible crisis we are going through. Let it be clear, this is a transition. It is just to call for elections and for it to be transparent, just like the people of Bolivia want. They need it. We don't want uncertainty. It is absolutely necessary to call on for elections and for the Bolivian people to choose their government.
US President Donald Trump says Morales' resignation is a warning to other Latin American leaders at loggerheads with Washington. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has blamed Trump for overthrow of Bolivia's president.
The coup d'etat against Evo Morales in Bolivia was financed and directed from the White House, as have all the coups d'etats in Latin America and the Caribbean in the last 100 years or more.
The Organization of American States will meet in Washington today to discuss the situation in Bolivia.
15 people have been killed after two trains collided head-on in Bangladesh. Rescue officials say over 100 people were injured in the accident. Traveling between Chittagong and Dhaka, the trains collided at Brahmanbaria, about 100 kilometers east of the capital city. 3 coaches were derailed by the tragedy near the Mandalbagh station in the town of Kasbah. Train services have been halted as authorities probe the accident. Railway authorities say faulty signaling could have caused the crash. The 550th birth anniversary celebrations of Baba Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, have begun at the Kartarpur Shrine in Pakistan. On Saturday, Pakistan opened the historic Kartarpur corridor for Sikh pilgrims from India and around the world. Over 3,000 Sikh pilgrims from India entered Pakistan last week through the Wagah border. Up to 5,000 pilgrims a day can now visit the final resting place of Baba Guru Nanak through the Kartarpur corridor. Sikhs from across the world have thanked Pakistan's government for opening the corridor and lauded the arrangements made for pilgrims there. Baba Guru Nanak spent the last 18 years of his life in Kartarpur and passed away there in 1539. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned with Indus. Welcome back. In Australia, raging bushfires have reached the Sydney suburbs. Rescue officials are warning that one of the 2 fires are currently out of control. 3 people have died in the fires so far. Firefighting aircraft are spraying red retardant over trees and houses. The New South Wales Rural Fire Services says the fire has been burning through the Turramurra forest 15 kilometers from the city. It says there are 85 fires in New South Wales, 46 out of which are out of control, while 14 are at an emergency level. The service says more than 3,000 firefighters are on the ground, supported by 60 aircraft fighting to douse the blaze. Meanwhile, the Rally Australia event has been cancelled because of the bushfires near its New South Wales venue. Heavy snow has blanketed a number of states in the US Midwest, causing traffic accidents and the cancellation of over 1,000 flights. The heaviest snow this winter has fallen on states including Illinois, Michigan, and Iowa. The National Weather Service has issued snowstorm warning for the Midwest. The snow comes from an Arctic cold from delivering winter weather to the central, southern, and eastern parts of the country. More than 1,000 flights have been cancelled after an American airliner plane skidded off the icy runway at Chicago's main airport. The airliner had 41 people on board at the time of the accident, but no one was injured. The 4-year-old giant panda Bei will head to China on 19th of November. This is as stipulated by a cooperative breeding agreement between China and the US, but the move is heart-rending for many. Let's find out why.
One of National Zoo's most beloved residents is moving next week. Heartfelt goodbyes have already begun. Visitors have started to pour into the zoo to say emotional farewells to Bei the panda.
So today was the appropriate day to deck out in panda gear. And then I have my little Bao Bao back here. She's traveled all the way with me. So today was the big day to come in. I have plenty of tissues and I'm just enjoying my view for the last moment.
The panda has been living separately from his mother since March 2017. Now he is at the age at which pandas must be returned to China for breeding purposes.
In China, the Wuhan International Tourism Festival is being celebrated in Hubei province. The event aims to honor thousands of years of Chinese history and culture. The festival has attracted 2,000 culture enthusiasts from all over the country as well as from abroad. More in this report.
Performing Chinese folk dance, wearing shiny silk hand-fu dresses, the entertainers attract visitors to the Wuhan Tourism Festival. Participants put a range of historical Chinese costumes on display, including those from the Han, Song and Ming dynasties. The 2-week-long event also features folk music and traditional archery.
I hope that I can do a little bit of work to promote traditional Chinese culture. We feel very confident when wearing hanfu because the clothing has gained popularity after our collective efforts of promoting hanfu culture.
Hair accessories and jewelry have also been an important part of Chinese cultural costumes. During the festival, craft maker Gu Xiaoyu showed her delicate hairpin made of materials like pearls and shells, attracting many visitors.
Our ideas of making a hairpin is to integrate traditional culture elements into our daily life so people can wear our hairpins every day.
The festival will continue until the 24th of November.
A California gallery is preparing to auction more than 1,500 rare items from the Disneyland and Walt Disney World theme parks. The items for the sale date back to the founding of the iconic parks in the 1950s. Details in this report.
Disney's enchanted Tiki Birds, a bronze Mickey Mouse, and the doll from It's a Small World are all about to be sold at the Van Eaton Galleries in Los Angeles. The animatronic birds are expected to sell for between $80,000 and $100,000, while the doll could fetch anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000. The auction traces the history of the Disney parks through items such as an original map of Disneyland and souvenirs from ashtrays to hats.
We have everything from a file copy of the original 1953 prospectus Walt used to get financing on the park. We have doors from Main Street buildings, Haunted Mansion stretch painting.
Around the world, people grew up with Disney's movies and the theme parks. A co-owner of Van Eaton Galleries, Mike Eaton, says these collectibles will bring back fond Disney memories to people.
People collect them from everywhere, and everyone has their own special likes. For you, it might be you remember that special toy that you bought at the Main Street Emporium, or for somebody else it might be, oh, that was my favorite ride, so I want something from that ride.
The History Walt Disney World auction will be held in Los Angeles over 2 days, starting from December 7th.
European markets are trading higher amid reports that the US President Donald Trump could announce a 6-month delay in the imposition of tariffs on EU auto imports. Frankfurt's DAX index has gained a fraction on strong corporate earnings. London's FTSE 100 index is also marginally higher. The CAC 40 in Paris has picked up about 0.25% on the back of the 19% gain by French telecom provider Iliad. Iliad has announced a $1.5 billion share buyback in Asia. Tokyo's Nikkei 225 led gains in anticipation of a trade deal between the US and China. Iran is looking to expand its export of red gold, better known as saffron. The problem it faces is US sanctions getting in the way of lucrative world market for the spice. More in this report.
Saffron, the crimson spice derived from the purple flower, Crocus sativus, has long been an ingredient in Persian food and spiritual medicine. The majority of saffron comes from Khorasan Razavi province, where many farmers, merchants and shop owners make their living. Iran produces up to 400 tons of saffron annually. Despite locally consuming more than half of the produce, Iran remains the largest exporter of the most expensive spice.
Close to 95 to 96% of the world's saffron production is held by Iran, and that is why no one like Afghanistan, Spain, and China can considerably compete.
While US sanctions have affected the product's global reach, saffron still largely remains monopolized by the Islamic Republic. The head of Iran's agricultural department, Ali Mohammad Shariati, says 90% of the raw product is rebranded with a different logo in other countries.
For example, when the US had good commercial relations with Iran, the saffron made its way there through Spain.
Despite US sanctions, Iranian traders and farmers are confident the commodity remains of the highest quality.
And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.